अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, ज़कात के मुताल्लिक़ जो बुनियादी बातें हैं वो आपके सामने आ गई। शराइत थे और उसमें से कुछ शराइत जो भी बाकी हैं और उसके ऊपर थोड़ी सी रोशनी हम डालेंगे। तो वी स्पोक अबाउट एब्सोल्यूट ओनरशिप। तो ओनरशिप ऑफ निसाब दैट इज एसेंशियल, ज़रूरी है कम से कम निसाब अमाउंट का मालिक होना। अब उसमें ओनरशिप में अगर इंडिविजुअली मैं अगर किसी चीज़ को, मेरे पास कोई एसेट्स हैं, आई एम द ओनर ऑफ इट, और आई एम अ प्रोपराइटर, आई एम अ ओनर ऑफ अ बिजनेस, or I'm a partner in an LLP. So my share in that partner in that LLP, my partnership share, that is my ownership. In the same way, if I'm a shareholder in a public limited company, in a private limited company, तो ये सब मेरे shares. Similarly, अगर कोई private trust है जिसका मैं beneficiary हूँ, if I'm a beneficiary and I have access and control to it, that is also my asset. Absolute ownership also means that together with ownership there should be possession. Possession में ये है कि either it is actual possession, physical possession, or if not actual possession, it can be constructive possession as well. So constructive possession, I have given someone an amana, so my amount is given to someone else. मैंने किसी को कर्ज दे दिया है, किसी के जो है मैंने इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए मुदारबा मुशारका के लिहाज से मैंने दिया हो, तो ये सब जो है अपनी इख्तियार से, ऑफ माई ओन फ्री विल, आई हैव हैंडेड ओवर दैट अमाउंट टू समवन एल्स, so that I have delegated that amount to someone else, so that will be regarded as being in my possession, और मुझे उस पर ज़कात निकालना होगा। तो ये पोजेशन के अंदर मजीद जो कोलैटरल है, रहन है, जो सिक्योरिटी इन ल्यू ऑफ अ लोन के मुकाबले में जो सिक्योरिटी होती है, तो उसमें with regards to rahan, the collateral is in the ownership of the person who has acquired the debt, but at the same time it is in the possession of the person who has given the loan, okay, who is the lender. So here, because there is no possession, so the rahin, despite being the owner, he will not be liable to pay zakat on that, say, jewelry or whatever is the collateral amount. But however, if there is a difference in the value, so the value that exceeds that loan, that will be zakatable. Say, for example, I took a loan of, I borrowed some money of, say, 50,000, and as a collateral, I gave it to the lender some jewelry that comes to around 100,000. So that 50,000 excess, that will be zakatable, and I will have to pay zakat for 50,000 of all these years, or all the years during which time that gold or jewelry is in the possession there. So this is with regards to possession. आगे हम चलते हैं कि with regards to ownership, there is always separate ownership. The concept of Sharia is separate ownership. There's no collective ownership here. So each and every person's calculation has to be done separately. So it is possible, let's say there are 5 people in a family. So it's possible that all 5 people, their day of beginning of the nisab or the calculating of zakat is different. It's possible, and it's possible that some of them are paying zakat and some of them are not paying zakat. It is also important to segregate the assets and liabilities. Many a time it happens that the wife is having a lot of gold in her possession. So, for example, 200 grams of gold, wife has it, and on the other hand, the husband is in debt. Okay, so he doesn't have to pay zakat. But what happens is, when he calculates, he pools down his assets together with the wife, and then he takes down the liabilities also to the wife, and the end result is there's no zakat. But if you look at it, there is zakat in it, because the liabilities is only for the husband, and the assets or the gold is in the milkiyat or the ownership of the wife. So it is necessary that we have to segregate it. Similarly, issue of children, many a time this happens that we keep certain amount of jewelry for our kids also. So minor kids, so those who haven't become बालिग yet, तो कुछ ना कुछ उनको दिया जाता है. अब उसमें इट इज़ नेसेसरी कि कुछ ना कुछ जो है हमारे लिए हमारी तरफ से ट्रांसपेरेंसी हो कि हम जो बच्चों के लिए दे रहे हैं ये बच्चों के लिए है. मुमकिन है कि इट इज़ पॉसिबल इट इज़ फॉर द चिल्ड्रन बट इट इज़ इन माय ओनरशिप. Okay, so I will have to pay zakat. But if it is in the child's ownership, if I say I have given it to my child, you have to keep it separately. एक बॉक्स बनाया जाए उसमें उसका नाम हो और उसी पर उसी के अंदर उसको रखा जाए. That will be determined as this is in the ownership of the child. So until and unless the child does not reach the age of puberty, there won't be zakat on that gold. Okay? So this is important to segregate in this manner. Moving forward, with regards to zakatable assets, gold and silver. Uh, this is the major zakatable asset. Gold and silver in any form, regardless of purpose, according to Imam Sahib Abu Hanifa Hanafiya, it is zakatable and zakatable on its selling value. Okay, so selling price. So they generally, the maximum gold content obviously is the 24 karat gold. Generally, the jewelry which we have is around 22 karat. So zakat is applicable on that as well. With regards to evaluation of zakat, so just before that, there is a listing of 9 karat jewelry. This 9 karat jewelry, although it is the majority metal is besides gold, but the gold content in it is also zakatable. So you have other gold, say 22 karat jewelry, and together you have 9 karat jewelry as well. So you will have to find out the percentage of gold in that 9 karat jewelry, and accordingly you will add those grams and those whatever the amount of weight of grams in your total gold collection. With regards to selling price, so what is the actual selling price? When we look at the market price of gold, you will get the general market price according to your location. But is that the price that you will receive when you go and sell your jewelry? Obviously not. So the local jeweler uh, will give you the scrap value. So scrap gold is that gold that will eventually go to the refinery for melting, and that is why they keep that amount, and for that from the market value, around 40 to 60% in discount. That is what value is given by the local gold vendors. So that is the value that will be taken into consideration for the general masses. However, there is one difference between the evaluation of jewelers. So, say for example, a person is a jeweler and he has a whole shop. Okay? So he is in the business of jewelry and he sells. So that's his selling price will be obviously different. That his selling price won't be the scrap value. His selling price will be different because his selling price is actually more, and he is going to take into consideration the workmanship also and the designs also, the designing cost, the making charges, and then there will be his profit ratio also involved in there. And together with that, the end result will be much more than what the scrap value is. So the evaluation uh, with regards to evaluation, there will be a difference between the jeweler and the general person. We move on to pearls, diamonds, and precious stones. Obviously, according to Hanafiya, there is no zakat in these except when these have been bought for resale or trading. So you have a business of diamonds and precious stones and pearls, then that amount will be zakatable. However, with regards to diamonds, precious stones, there was a seminar conducted by IFA, and therein this the question or this issue was raised, wherein we find that quite a number of people, they have a lot of diamonds and pearls, and what they do is they, in fact, they convert their capital into these. So instead of keeping money, they have converted it into diamonds and precious stones for times of need. So the intention is not obviously selling, but the intention is to save, uh, for the times of need. And that is why, because this was a large amount, that is why certain scholars felt that the zakat should also be wajib on this. So if a person is in this situation, then it is better for him to give zakat on it. The second zakatable asset that we have is cash and its equivalents. So we have petty cash that is in my possession, savings, specific purposes, say for Hajj, home, even though these purposes fall under, you can say, the basic needs, but still, as long as it is cash, then Sharia demands that we are liable to pay zakat on it. Similarly, bank balances, but in bank balances, the interest amount, because interest amount is haram and it is wajibut tasadduq, so the entire amount is wajibut tasadduq. So that won't be included in your assets. Fixed deposit amount, e-wallets, Paytm, PayPal, foreign currency, cryptocurrency. Once again, there is a difference of opinion among scholars with regards to cryptocurrency, with regards to permissibility of investment. There are multiple opinions in this regard. However, if still a person has invested in it, then to be on the safe side, he will have to give zakat on 100% of his share in it. We move forward. Trade stock. Any item that has been purchased for resale or for trading. So it's important that it has to be purchased, and at the time of purchase, the intention should be to sell. And on the day of zakat, on the day of the zakat calculation, that intention should continue. So, say for example, a person bought an item for trade and for resale, but after a while, he changed that decision and he changed that intention. He says, "No longer, I no longer want to sell it." So that will cease to be a trade stock. Similarly, say if a person received an item as a gift or as an inheritance, and then he would like to sell it, that also will not qualify as a trade stock. So basically, for a trade stock or stock in trade to be zakatable, it is necessary to have purchased it with the intention of zakat, with the intention of resale, with the intention of trade, and that intention of trade should be constant and remain till the date you are evaluating or calculating your zakat. Now, when we speak about trade stock in a company, there are certain liquid assets, that is exchange trade assets, inventory, stocks, raw materials, all these are zakatable. However, fixed assets are not zakatable. So fixed assets, land, real estate, revenue, even though revenue generating assets, leased assets, all these are not zakatable. With regards to fixed assets, then you have equipment, machinery, movable assets of operation. Same way, there are spare parts, tools used for production. So even if these tools are being stored in your warehouses, but it's still it won't be zakatable. So these are furnitures and fittings, offices, furnitures, fixtures, collaterals. Similarly, intangibles, copyright, registration, registered logo, registered trademark, software, patents, all these are also not zakatable. With regards to the real estate or property investments, so property and real estate, there is no zakat on it. However, as mentioned earlier, I just mentioned that if a property or a land has been purchased for the intention of sale or resale or trade, and that intention of trade remains, then obviously that entire amount, the entire value of the property will be zakatable. If, on the other hand, a property is being purchased for the intention of, say, a holiday home or for residence purposes or by to lease for generating rental income, then obviously, yes, the rental income that remains on the day of your zakat calculation, that will be included, but the value of the land won't be included, or the flat, or the real estate, or the property won't be included. So, for example, a person has bought land, but he doesn't have any primary intention to sell. He just wants to keep it, that is just a long-term investment. Yes, if he feels that if I get a good price, I will sell. So this is also not zakatable. You must have a primary intention to sell for it to be zakatable. Damaged or defective stock. Obviously, damaged or defective stock will see, as long as it is saleable, as long as it is saleable, it will be evaluated. And if it is not sellable, then obviously it will be dead stock. But as long as it is sellable, then according to the value, it will be evaluated. Valuation of trade assets. How are we going to evaluate? Obviously, there is a big debate about trade assets. There is a cost price, and on the other hand, there is a selling price. Obviously, cost price is that price on which it was purchased, but that won't be considered. However, on the day that zakat is being calculated, on that day, the selling price will be taken into consideration. That will be regarded as the current market price. And it has to be evaluated in the place where the goods are there, according to the method of sale. So if you have a retail business, then you will evaluate accordingly, and a wholesale business, and accordingly the wholesale selling price will be used. And if such a business where both are retail, there is a retail also, and there is a wholesale business going on also, so then whatever is predominant, whatever is more, the majority, that will take precedence. With regards to the date of accrual, or Yawm al-Wujub, so say for example, on the day when my zakat was wajib on me, and on the day when I have to calculate, it is essential that, like how Mufti Tawfiq had mentioned, that either one selects a date or selects a year, say a lunar year according to the lunar year, or either according to the solar year. It is essential and it is important that we fix one date. एक डेट का होना बहुत जरूरी है जिस पर हम ज़कात का हर साल उसका हिसाब करें, और ये इस वजह से है कि उसके दरमियान में आगे पीछे जो एक हफ्ता पहले, मिसाल के तौर पर एक डेट है, फर्स्ट मुहर्रम इज योर डेट, एंड यू रिसीव से around a huge amount of money 5 or 6 days before that, so obviously that will also be included in your cash in hand or bank balances, and that will be zakatable. Or say for example, your date of zakat was on the 1st of Muharram, and on the 5th of Muharram, you acquired, say, a huge amount of, say, 50 lakh rupees. So obviously, that won't be zakatable. So it is very important, एक date ho, and that one date is your also called as Yawmul Wujub. Yawmul Wujub meaning that date zakat is being wajib on you. So now, say for example, a person who has not paid zakat for multiple years. Okay, so it's 2021 now, and a person hasn't paid zakat from 2010, and he had, say for example, 200 grams of gold. So that 200 grams of gold, when we are discharging zakat on it, or in 2021, what rate will we be applying there? The price evaluation. So obviously, Yawmul Wujub. So with regards to 2010, zakat was wajib in 2010. That year, the, the rate will be taken. With regards to the zakat of 2011, that year's date will be taken, and accordingly. Goods in transit. So goods that we have already made payments of, and but we haven't received possession of it. So in this, it is very important that to note that two things. One is evaluation of stock or the goods at the place of existence, at the place that they have reached. So say for example, you are a consignment is coming from, say, Africa, and at the time of your calculation, it has been stationary in Dubai, so UAE. You will have to find out the value of the goods in UAE according to the UAE selling price. That's one thing. And the other thing is it has to be an FOB. So FOB, your liability has been transferred to the buyer, and that's when it will be zakatable. If it's not that, then it won't be zakatable to you. We move on. It's receivables. Receivables are of two kinds. The receivables that which you are going to receive as credit sales, outstanding payments. Okay? And some receivables are non-zakatable with regards to loans, security deposits. Security deposits in a renting premises or renting equipment. A deposit is handed over to the owner. So who will take out the zakat in that? So that security deposit is actually categorized as a loan. So it is a receivable for the person renting, and that person will be liable to pay zakat on it. And for the landlord, that will be categorized as a payable. So it will be a liability for the landlord, and for the renter, it will be a receivable. And hence the zakat will be on the person renting. With regards to non-zakatable receivables, so say for example, sale of generic items. So in my home, I was using a laptop or a computer, and then I sold it away. Or certain clothes or certain equipment which I was using. Basically, something that was not for trade, something that I was using and I sold, and now that payment is yet to come. That payment, that receivable won't be zakatable until and unless it has reached me. It is in my possession. So on the day of my calculation, if that has not reached me, then I won't be including that in my zakat. Similarly, salaries and wages. I've worked in a certain company, and say 6 months of wages are outstanding, and I need to receive it. I have got to receive it. I have a right on that money, but unless and until I don't receive it, I won't have ownership of it, and there won't be zakat on it. So that is a receivable, but it is not zakatable. Gifts and awards, any type of hiba, any type of gifts. You went to say a quiz and you earn a prize, and that prize is supposed to come. You know the amount, but still you are not liable to pay zakat on it until and unless you have not possessed it and it doesn't come in your possession. Similarly, inheritance shares. You know there is a large amount of inheritance money that you are entitled to receive, and it's possible that the evaluation has been made and certain people have taken the responsibility of giving it to you, but still until and unless it hasn't been received by you, it will not be zakatable. With regards to bad debts in this regard, which are non-repayable, so I am going to include all debts, all my liabilities, all my receivables, but at the same time I will see with regards to a debt, whether is there any type of hope of receiving or not. So if there is no hope, I know this person is not going to give me, this debt is not going to come, so then I can categorize it as a bad debt or a malud dimar, and they won't be zakatable. Just say down the line, in the next 4 or 5 years, if that comes to me, then well and good. I don't have to give zakat of the previous years. Yeah, if it's partial, then two. So say for example, 100,000 I need to receive from a source, and I feel that I have only say hope of say around 50% of it. So I will only receive 50%. The remaining 50% I won't receive. So you will only calculate your receivable as 50% of it, or 50,000, and not the entire. So you can deduct the partial amount from your receivables. Yes. We move on to investments, equities and shares. Equities and shares, obviously, what is the intention of buying equities? If it is trading, whether it's short term, a weekly trade, a monthly trade, or an annual trade, whether it's the objective is, if the objective is trading and you have a target in mind, then zakat will be on the entire value, the market value of the stocks. And if the intention is long-term retention, just taking benefit of the dividends, then zakat will be on the underlying zakatable assets in the company, evaluated as per market rate. Private limited companies, shares, the last available valuation, last balance sheet, and accordingly you can discharge zakat from it. Mudaraba and musharaka. One is an informal, say, joint venture, which we have, that we give people for investment. Say in a running business, so he has an entire setup, he has a setup of infrastructure, and he doesn't want any type of partnership in the company, in the fixed assets of the company. He just needs some liquidity, and so that will only be, that money will only be used for trade stock and for meeting the expenses of the business. So that, in that case, that entire amount together with any profits, that will be zakatable. Also, when fixed and liquid asset ratio of a company is not known to you, then regardless of the intention, you will discharge zakat on the entire amount of the shares. So this was the assets part that we have finished. So these were zakatable assets. When we speak about zakat formula is basically zakatable assets, all zakatable assets together, minus the deductible liabilities. So those liabilities that have been incurred to you currently at this moment, due now, those liabilities shall be deducted in the remaining net zakatable assets that remains. That will be the value that you will have to remove zakat on. We speak about deductible liabilities. So you have debts that have been incurred already but are payable in the next 12 months. In the next 4 months, 5 months, debts that are payable in the next 12 months, अगले 12 महीनों में, अगले पूरे साल में जो देना है, जो अदा करने हैं, जो लाइबिलिटीज हैं, जो अभी आ चुकी हैं, आने वाली नहीं, जो ऑलरेडी आ चुकी हैं और आने के बाद अदायगी जो है वो मुअख्खर की गई. द पेमेंट ऑफ इट से पेएबल within the next 6 months or 12 months. So that will be included, or that will be deductible. 12 months installments of long-term liabilities. Okay. So long-term liabilities, long-term loan of say 15 years, 20 years. So the entire loan or housing loan, etc., etc. So the entire loan will not be deducted, but only 12 installments, or the installments of 1 year will only be deducted from the liabilities. Arrears and overdue payments with regards to rentals, payment of staff salaries, wages, these also will be deducted. Any loans taken from relatives and friends, that will also be deducted. Similarly, 12 months of bank loans. However, only the principal amount will be deductible. And interest amount, obviously, the entire amount is wajib al-tasadduq. Security deposits. So here, as a liability, this is from the landlord. So the person who is the owner, who is the lessor, he has received that security deposit, which is in his possession, but it is a loan. So it's a payable debt. He has to repay it back. So he will deduct it from his assets. With regards to a business loan, when we look at the IOFI standards, we find that the ulama ikram, the scholars, have differentiated between business loans. So there is a business loan, a type of business loan that is used or incurred due to obtaining zakatable assets for the purpose of trade. So say, for example, raw materials were required and a business loan was taken for the purpose of attaining raw materials, acquiring stocks for trade. So that loan will be deductible and will be regarded as a deductible liability. On the other hand, business loans that have been incurred as a result of acquiring non-zakatable fixed assets. So say, for example, a business wanted to acquire a new machinery, they wanted to set up a new plant. So these are all fixed assets, or buy some real estate. So these fixed assets or non-zakatable assets were used, the debt was used to acquire these non-fixed assets, and that is why that debt will not be deductible. So that is not a deductible liability. Similarly, unpaid interest, it is obviously not permissible, it is prohibited. However, a person gets into it, that an unpaid interest, the liability of paying interest is not recognized by Sharia. It is not a Sharia recognizable debt. We move on to the provisions and reserves. So provisions and reserves When you look at the balance sheet of a company, these come on the liability side. However, according to the zakat calculation, provisions and reserves are an asset and a zakatable asset. The provisions and reserves, the amount will be zakatable because those amounts are reserves of the profits, and these are owned by the company as well. Capital account issuance premium, that also falls in the same category, even though they have been mentioned in the liabilities section according to the accounting standards. With regards to zakat distribution, we have now completed the liabilities. So now we're coming to who should we give our zakat to? Who is eligible to receive zakat? When we speak about the nisab for a person accepting zakat, there is a minor difference between the two nisab. The nisab for a person giving zakat and a person receiving zakat. For a person to be a recipient of zakat, for him to be eligible for receiving zakat, there is one addition. If you will see, there is unused personal assets for over a year. So if he has certain personal assets that are non-zakatable, say fixed assets, movable assets, that are not usable, that news, say for 1 year, a person hasn't used it, so that amount will be, whatever that goods are, that will be included in the evaluation. And if this entire amount is less than the nisab, cash, gold, silver, zakatable assets, receivables, business stock, and together with the unused personal assets, and minus the deductible debts, if all of this is less than the nisab amount, then he is eligible to receive zakat. However, if these unused personal assets make it more than the nisab amount, then although he cannot receive zakat, but he doesn't have to pay zakat as well. So this was with regards to the eligibility for a person receiving zakat or the recipient of zakat. Practical method of calculating zakat, there is a form which will be forwarded to you all, inshallah. The same things have been mentioned. There is the assets column, and in that you can add all your assets. That will come to the total zakatable assets. Then you will have on the other hand, zakat deductible liabilities. So total assets minus the deductible liabilities will give you your net zakatable assets on which you need to pay zakat on. With regards to moving on, essentials of discharging zakat. As we mentioned, the first point, eligibility, is very important. The person should be deserving of zakat, of receiving zakat. The second thing, tamliq or ownership. The tamliq ownership is essential for discharging of zakat, for validity of zakat as well. Like how it is essential in zakat being wajib on a person. Similarly, tamliq is necessary for eligibility. So the mal or the wealth should be transferred from the ownership of the rich to the ownership of the poor. Hence, it is essential, according to us, according to all scholars, there is a consensus on this, that it is not permissible to give zakat for building a masjid, for any type of khair that does not include tamlik or ownership of the poor. The third condition is that it should be given free, not as a remuneration or in lieu of anything. We have domestic helps in our home, we have our staff, so we do not give zakat as their salary, nor do we give zakat as incentive for them, because zakat cannot be given as a remuneration. That incentives, that bonus, that is something that is necessary on us to give, and we cannot discharge that through our zakat. Also, another aspect here is to taking benefit from our zakat. We cannot take benefit from our zakat, so this will also be taking benefit of our zakat as well. The fourth essential, intention. Obviously, intention, ikhlas, only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى. But at the same time, the intention of zakat should also be there. The intention of removing zakah. So a person, after calculating, he segregates, he separates a certain amount of wealth from his accounts or from his cash in hand, keeps in an envelope, and that segregation he does it with the intention of zakat, then that is sufficient. Thereafter, it is not necessary every time he goes and gives a worthy person, a poor person, he has to renew his intention. It's not necessary if the intention has been there at the time of segregation. Direct payment, if there is no segregation, you need or only direct payment, then at the time of payment, intention is necessary. Payment through an agent, if you're paying through to any charitable institution, to the madrasa or a masjid, then payment through the agent, at that time also intention has to be there. One can name it anything. A person can give it, name it as a gift, can name it as a hiba, can name it as a loan, but the underlying intention, as long as that underlying intention of giving zakat is there, then it is fine. Recipients of zakat. إنما الصدقات للفقراء. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned those, the recipients, the 8 recipients. These 4 here are relevant now. When you find faqir, miskin, the poor, those who have not have the ownership of nisab. Gharim, one in debt for a legitimate reason. So zakat can also be given to those who are genuinely in debt. Ibn Sabil, we found this especially in this COVID situation. Many people, they were stranded away from home. In their hometowns, in their home countries, they were rich, they had money, but wherever they were stranded, they had no access to money here. So such an Ibn Sabil or a wayfarer or a traveler can also be a recipient of zakat. Who cannot be a recipient of your zakat? Your spouse, the husband cannot give zakat to your wife. The wife cannot give it to the husband. You cannot give zakat to your children, grandchildren, and so forth. You cannot give zakat to parents, grandparents, and so forth. Zakat cannot be given to non-Muslims, cannot be given to wealthy. And wealthy, obviously, according to Sharia, is categorized by those people who have the ownership of nisab. It can be given, however, to siblings, other relatives, and obviously a person, if he gives zakat to his relatives, then he will be rewarded twofold. One is the reward of sila rahmi, and the other will be the reward of discharging his zakat. So that's it. We have come to the end of our presentation.